You already knew Caitlin Clark was carrying the WNBA on her back. Turns out she's been doing it with 4 different injuries: a busted groin, a battered quad, and a medical team that seems more interested in optics than outcomes. And now, it's finally catching up to her. The golden girl of women's basketball is in trouble. Not just because she's hurt, but because she's finally had enough. Let's rewind. The Indiana Fever said it was day-to-day. That's what they told the media. That's what they put on their injury reports. Like this was just a minor tweak, maybe a little soreness. Nothing to worry about. But inside league circles, the whispers were louder. Medical insiders, and we're talking NBA-level specialists, were quietly saying the truth was much worse. Clark had 4 separate lower body injuries. 4. 2 groin strains, 1 on each side. A quad strain. A compensation pattern that was wrecking her ability to move naturally. And the kicker? They kept playing her through it. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. The face of the league is being treated like a practice body. Let's put this bluntly. If this were LeBron James or Steph Curry, they'd be in a hyperbaric chamber, sipping recovery shakes, doing zero-gravity rehab, and resting for 3 weeks minimum. But Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's biggest star, she was trotted back onto the court like nothing was wrong, kept in the rotation, told to grit through it, all because the team, and maybe even the league, couldn't afford to let her sit. They needed her on the court for ticket sales, for ratings, for headlines, and she gave them everything until her body gave out. The truth about groin strains nobody wants to talk about. Let's talk science for a second. Groin injuries are not sprained ankles. They're not something you walk off. They're slow healing, extremely sensitive soft tissue injuries that can become chronic if not managed with precision. You can't just ice and tape it. You need structured rehab. You need rest. You need your mechanics monitored every second. Because the moment your gates shift to compensate, boom, you've now got a second injury on the other side. That's exactly what happened to Caitlin. 1 groin strain became 2. Then came the quad. Then the limping. Then the breakdown during a game. Captured on camera with the most composed, confident player in women's basketball. Looked like she'd finally hit a wall. And who was there to catch her? Nobody. Not the Fever's front office. Not the league. Not even her coach, who kept her in rotations that made no sense for a player rehabbing multiple injuries. So what did Caitlin do? She took her recovery into her own hands. Out with the team doctors, and with the real ones. According to sources close to the situation, Caitlin is now seeking third-party medical opinions. People with NBA experience, top-tier orthopedic specialists, and regenerative medicine experts. We're talking about doctors who have worked with MVPs, not just day-to-day clipboard holders. These are the types of professionals who prescribe cutting-edge treatments like stem cell injections, PRP therapy, and cryotherapy. That's how serious this is. And frankly, it's the only way she makes it through this. Because playing through 1 groin strain is risky. Playing through 4 injuries simultaneously is career sabotage. What went wrong in Indiana? This isn't just about medical mismanagement. This is about organizational culture. From day one, it felt like the Indiana Fever didn't quite know what they had. Caitlin Clark was drafted to be the face of the team, maybe even the league. But instead of protecting her, building around her, and managing her minutes like a long-term investment, they treated her like any other rookie, thrown into a losing system, asked to fix it overnight, given heavy minutes, physical matchups, and endless media obligations, even when she was limping, even when she said she was hurting, and when she still delivered, when she dropped dimes and drained logo threes. They asked for more. That's not leadership. That's exploitation. Her off-season bulk up, a blessing and a curse. Part of the problem also lies in Caitlin's body, or more accurately, how quickly it changed. During the off-season, she reportedly added significant muscle mass. It was supposed to help her absorb the physicality of the league, and in many ways it did. But there's a flip side to that transformation. Rapid strength gains can alter your biomechanics, the way you move, your stride, your cuts, your lift, if your neuromuscular system doesn't adapt at the same rate, injuries start popping up like dominoes. That's exactly what happened. Her explosive play style, combined with new muscle and endless pressure, created the perfect storm. And without expert monitoring, her body started to break down. The response from fans? Outrage. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about trust. They believed the league would protect its brightest star, that the people in charge would put her health first, that the Indiana Fever would see her as a generational asset, not a temporary workhorse. Instead, fans watched Caitlin's smile disappear. They saw the spark dim. They saw her wincing between plays. They saw the tears on the bench. This is someone who never shows pain, who plays through contact, fouls, double teams, and keeps her composure. So when she finally broke, the fans knew something was seriously wrong. The bigger picture. This is a WNBA problem, not just a Fever problem. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. This isn't just about one team. The WNBA has a history of underfunding medical support, of lacking charter flights, of subjecting players to travel fatigue, subpar recovery environments, and minimal off-court care. Clark just happens to be the canary in the coal mine, the one player too famous to ignore. But make no mistake, if this can happen to her, it can happen to anyone. This is a systemic issue. And if the league doesn't evolve, it won't just be Caitlin's career at risk. It'll be the WNBA's credibility. The good news? Caitlin's not done, not even close, with the right treatment. And we're talking real world-class recovery. She can bounce back stronger than ever. Groin injuries are tricky, but they're not career-ending if handled correctly. And Caitlin isn't just rehabbing her body. She's rebuilding her team, her boundaries, her control over her own story. She's no longer blindly trusting the system. She's creating her own. What comes next for the league? Now the ball is in the WNBA's court. Do they support their superstar? Do they acknowledge their role in this mess? Do they implement league-wide injury protocols, upgrade team medical staffing, and ensure that no player, especially not their biggest draw, is put in this position again? Or do they keep pretending nothing's wrong? Because if they choose the latter, the fans won't stay quiet. The sponsors won't stay loyal. And Caitlin? She may not stay in Indiana. Caitlin Clark's story is quickly becoming something bigger than sports. It's about workplace conditions, about athlete agency, about what happens when the people in charge get that their assets are human. She's not just a highlight reel, not just a ticket machine. She's a person, a competitor, a 22-year-old woman whose body is screaming for care. And maybe now, after everything, the league will finally start listening. Because if Caitlin Clark's injury is the price of the WNBA's rise, the fans are making it very clear. It's too damn high. So here's the uncomfortable truth nobody in the WNBA front offices wants to admit. They nearly ran Caitlin Clark into ground before her rookie season was even over. The biggest draw in women's basketball, the top jersey seller, the reason half of the league's games even sell out in the first place, the one player who could single-handedly elevate the WNBA's media rights, fan base, and global relevance. And what did they do with her? They overplayed her, they underprotected her, and they ignored the signs until it was too late. Because if you watch Caitlin's first few months in the league closely, if you listen past the hype, past the record-breaking stats, past the sold-out arenas, you could hear it. The creak, the grind, the strain, a body that was being pushed too hard, too fast, in a league that wasn't ready for pressure housing a generational talent. Clark was never treated like a rookie. She was treated like a lifeline. Let's be real. From day one, Caitlin wasn't just a rookie. She was a business plan. When she arrived, the Indiana Fever had one of the worst records in the league. Low ticket sales, barely their media attention. National broadcasters treated their games like background noise. Then Caitlin Clark shows up and everything flips. Suddenly, the Fever are leading TV ratings. They're breaking franchise attendance records. They're on ESPN Weekly. So, what did the franchise do with that momentum? They rode it hard. They leaned on her for everything. Media appearances, non-stop press tours, fourth-quarter heroics, double-digit assists, and oh yeah, sometimes 40 minutes of play when her legs were clearly begging for rest. And then the injuries hit. At first, it was a tight quad. Nothing major. Just some soreness, they said. Then it was groin stiffness. Left side, then right side. And suddenly, what looked like minor aches turned into a full-blown injury storm. Strains in both groins. Recurring quad tightness. Noticeable discomfort in her gait. But the public messaging? Still just day-to-day. Except it wasn't. Because if you've ever had a groin strain, or worse, two, you know these don't go away in a week. They nag. They tighten. They come back stronger the second you push before you're ready. And Caitlin was always being pushed. Where was the protection? You'd think the WNBA, having finally landed a player capable of turning the league into a global product, would have surrounded her with the best doctors, the best strength and conditioning programs, the best travel accommodations. You'd think they prioritize recovery, monitor minutes, and have sports scientists managing her every move like NBA franchises do with their stars. But no, this is still the WNBA. And the infrastructure? It's not built for superstardom. Not yet. Charter flights are still rare. Recovery resources are uneven. Some training facilities look more like college gyms than pro ones. So while Clark was pushing her body against the best offenders in the world, playing nearly every other night, she was also flying commercial, crashing into seats on 6-hour travel days, and doing cold tubs in a portable bin. It's no wonder her body snapped. And still, they wanted more. Even after the injury started stacking up, the pressure didn't ease. Her team needed wins. The league needed ratings. Fans expected miracles every night. So Clark, being the competitor she is, pushed through. She gritted her teeth, took charges, fought through double teams, knocked down logo threes, even while dragging a groin that barely let her plant. But at what cost? Eventually, the body talks back. And when it finally did, when she had to sit out the All-Star game, miss events, and turn down media appearances, everyone acted shocked, like this wasn't entirely predictable, like they hadn't seen this coming from a mile away. Clark goes rogue, taking her health into her own hands. That was the turning point, because once Caitlin realized the Indiana Fever medical staff was more interested in clearing her to play than healing her perform, she did what every smart superstar does. She found her own team, private doctors, NBA-level physical therapists, regenerative therapy experts, specialists in soft tissue injury rehab, people with actual experience managing high-performance athletes at scale. And when that move became public, the message was clear. She doesn't trust the Fever system. She's not just a player anymore. She's a brand, and she's protecting her investment. The WNBA's systemic problem just got exposed. Here's where things get even messier. Clark isn't the only player who's been run into the ground. The WNBA has long faced criticism for its lack of resources, inconsistent medical support, and over-reliance on stars to carry teams on their backs. But Caitlin's injury crisis put all of that under a national microscope. Suddenly, every fan, analyst, and sponsor is asking the same question. If this is how they treat her, what's happening to the rest of the league? Because Clark should be the safest, most protected, most well-cared-for athlete in the league. Instead, she had to pull herself out of the system just to get healthy. The fans are waking up. The backlash isn't subtle anymore. Clark's fan base, arguably the most passionate in basketball right now, isn't buying the day-to-day narratives. They've seen the limp. They've seen the tears. They've seen the post-game clips where she can barely get through interviews. And now they're asking for accountability. Petitions, hashtags, entire podcasts dedicated to breaking down the disconnect between the league's handling of her injuries and what's really going on. Some are even calling for the WNBA to launch a third-party medical review board to ensure that no team ever mismanages a star like this again. What happens next? If Caitlin plays this right, and let's be honest, she will, this injury saga could be the wake-up call the league has needed for years. She's already rebuilding her body. You can bet she's also rebuilding her team off the court. hiring top-tier agents, consultants, and business strategists who will help her control not just her health, but her future. Contract negotiations, media rights, player empowerment campaigns. Caitlin Clark is becoming more than just a basketball player. She's turning into the WNBA's first fully self-managed superstar. She's not just the future of the game, she's the blueprint. The league's choice is simple: evolve or fade. So now it's on the WNBA. They can either build the infrastructure needed to protect, support, and elevate stars like Clark, or they can stay stuck in the past, where injuries are brushed off, player voices are muted, and medical staff are pressured to clear players before they're ready. But the days of operating in the shadows are over. The cameras are on. The fans are watching. The money's on the table. And if Caitlin Clark's comeback is anything like her rise, it won't just heal her reputation. It'll force an entire league to grow up. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the WNBA savior. She just wanted to hoop. But when your talent explodes into history and your jersey outsells every other athlete in the country, men or women, you don't get to choose what kind of symbol you become. She's been tested. Physically, emotionally, publicly. And now, after everything, she's choosing to rise on her own terms. Watch closely, because the comeback won't just be legendary. It might be the start of a revolution. But here's what really stings. Caitlin Clark's injury wasn't just a physical blow. It fractured the entire narrative the WNBA had been building all season. This was supposed to be the year of Clark, the rookie takeover, the season where women's basketball finally had a face that transcended the sport. Someone with college accolades, crossover appeal, and the kind of charisma that packed stadiums in cities that had barely cared about the WNBA 5 months earlier. Instead, fans were left watching from the sidelines as their favorite player hobbled through games she probably never should have suited up for. And when Clark sat out the All-Star game, the one event practically built to be her coronation, the league felt the shockwave immediately. Ticket prices dropped. Interest dipped. Entire ad campaigns had to be quietly reworked. And suddenly, the air felt thinner. Why? Because when the league's biggest draw goes down, everything around her feels a little more fragile. And this wasn't just about missed minutes. It was about mistrust. When Clark's camp started quietly seeking second and third opinions from outside medical experts, including sports medicine professionals who usually treat NBA veterans, that was the real red flag. It meant she no longer trusted the process. No longer felt like her team had her best interests in mind. And honestly, who could blame her? How do you trust a system that keeps sending you back onto the court with unresolved injuries, only to issue half-hearted day-to-day updates while your body is screaming for rest? That shift from compliance to control is a defining moment in every superstar's career. It's what separates athletes who get burned out from the ones who build empires. Caitlin Clark is no longer just a player in the WNBA. She's an institution, a brand, a business. And businesses don't survive by trusting broken systems. They survive by building better ones. She's already started doing it. Quietly, strategically, and with more support than people think. Because here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The public, the fans, even some fellow players, they're on her side. They saw how hard she played, how often she took hits with no whistle, how she limped through post-game pressers and still smiled through gritted teeth. They didn't see a diva. They saw a warrior, a star carrying too much weight, too early, in a league still catching up to what she represents. So now the question becomes, will the league rise with her, or watch her rise without them? Because make no mistake, Clark is already laying the groundwork for the next phase. The phase where she dictates terms, not the other way around. And if the WNBA wants to be part of that future, they'd better start acting like they deserve her in it. Because superstars don't wait around forever. And Caitlin Clark, she's not just waiting to heal. She's preparing to take over, again,